So, yeah, I've seen your question, Karen. I will come to the pound Aussie. There's only a couple of emails to go through, so what I'll start with is what's happening next week. Europe's coming off daylight savings. It's not really going to affect our end-of-day trades, but it might. You might want to be aware that the shift in time for the European Open will change, and obviously the London Open by an hour. Next week is when the US. You guys can't hear me? Oh, that old chestnut, the mute button. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was just saying the daylight savings in Europe won't affect the end of day trading as much, but it may affect the Europe and the London Open. And I don't have the webinar ID for Wednesday. Okay, well, yeah, so that's important to be aware of for the European and London Opens. The other big items next week is Wednesday night. Note these times are my time and over here. So Wednesday night is we've got the big one, the FOMC. It's in this meeting that they expected to finish the quantitative easing to stop the bond purchasing program that they're running, and they'll be just left with interest rates to manipulate. Not that they've got much interest rates to talk about, but it's the end of the quantitative easing, which was started in 2011. We've also got early in the morning, you've got the Kiwis monetary policy announcement, and later on Friday you have the Japanese. So that's the biggest one is the FOMC, always is. You should always be aware of when they are scheduled. It's the biggest news item that occurs. So that's what's happening next week. So then you need to be aware of that big one there. Got a few charts to go through from people, but I just wanted to. Shit, this is running already. Wanted to go through what I'm looking at or what I've got on. Quite literally, there's this Aussie trade I've just put on as it broke out below this 87.50 sort of bit of support level. Just running it for 50 pips, had a 20 pip stop on it. And trading that little hourly there. At the time, momentum was coming to the downside, and the momentum is obviously with the US dollar strength. Yeah, so just monitoring that, looking for a potential target here. Get a bit more selling in here, and I might move my stop to break even. So that's the Aussie on the hourly. We can see there that it's quite stuck in a range. So I'm just keeping an eye on that one. Along the yen, which I believe a lot of you are, or I know a lot of you are, I have moved my stop to just underneath this bar here. Under these sort of support zone that you can see here, it's a minor support area across there. So I'm just underneath that by about 10-15 pips, but that's looking okay, that one. And then there's the euro, which I've got quite a bit on. With the euro, I'll just start with the daily. It's a bit of a looks a bit messy, but you can see this green one here is of 1.46 size, is a 0.5% entry underneath this bearish bar that we discussed earlier in the week. Then this one here, which is 2 lots, was the follow-up for the other 0.5% coming in underneath this bar. So that's my two dailies. The stop is now for both of them of those 2 lots are above this bar here at 75. Oh, sorry, 27.50, and we'll continue to monitor those that as it goes along. Also went in yesterday with the hourly. You can see these entries here. as the hourly came back off, was placed underneath this test. That test there was this low, and if we also draw a fib on that, you can see it's also the 50 fib. So I went in underneath that, and it's just gone sideways since. So we can see the stop loss there that's the stop loss for that on the hourly. It's just not doing much, but with the US dollar strength, I do expect that to continue. And these are the two targets for those that little sell order that I had in there. So that's the euro, and what we're looking at. One other thing that I'm looking at is this one, Aussie CAD. We can see if we look at it that it's a reasonable support line that it came back to test. It's also tested the 50 fib, the 50 EMA, so there's all reasons for us to get into the trade. I was a little slow in placing the order this morning, but let me just show you the process that I go through. So look at entering the order at, put the order in at 98.15, so that's 0.9815. So we'll come into that 0.9815. Stop loss I'd have just above this this high here and the 50 fib, so it's around 0.9943 is the fib, so I'll put it at 0.995, 0.995, 135 pip stop. So where would our potential target be? Well, if we just get rid of all this just so it cleans it up a bit, potential target is you're looking at the 1.618. So if we look at the 1.618, it's 95. Let's go 95.15. 0.9515, and so we've got a 300 pip target, so that gives us a risk reward of 2.2. Fabulous. On my account, that's a 3.63. I'll just move this over here so I can still see that. And we come in and we place the order. Now that it's gone past my entry price, yep. Phase 1%. Now it's gone past my entry price, which was 98.15. I'll put it as a sell limit. Right? I'm not going to chase the market, not like the yen. Just put it as a sell limit. The stop was 99.50, and the target was 0.9515. And we place that. Get rid of the fib so you can see it. And that's your order, and we'll sit that there as a limit order waiting to be filled. There's the stop, and where's our target is before the major support down here. If we look at the weekly, you can see support is down this area here, so we're inside that, and we're around the, just targeting the 1.618. Canadians, another reason why I like this is I think the Aussie will now start to fall towards 85 and 80 cents, and the Canadians are quite strong, being dragged along with a very strong US. Overnight they had some even better data, so being short this, it's also like the Euro CAD, but I've missed that opportunity. I'll have to keep an eye on that in the shorter time frames, but this is looking reasonable to keep an eye on. So right, there was a question on the pound Aussie. Whilst doing that, I note on the 1 hour long sellers bar sending it further south. I'm not sure which one you're talking about, which currency pair you're talking about. Right, pound Aussie. The question was, got in over here on the 20th on this bar here, which is or around here on this bar here, which is a reasonable entry. Your stop was potentially underneath that, and you're still in the trade, which is fabulous. I have moved my stops underneath this bar here, which is one of my rules. and instead of risking 1%, I've walked away with a loss of 0.6. You're still in the trade, obviously, which is great, and you know, I would, if I was you, I'd move your stop underneath this low test bar, potentially, or you leave your stop where it's at. You know, this area here that we're looking at is still pretty good, and I'm disappointed that I got stopped out, but hey, you know, you can't win every trade. I was sticking to my rules, so that's fine. Now, yes, it's looking like another ring low. Would you add to the trade? No, but you've managed the trade and you stay in it, and so that's you should be looking good there to take this off as the Aussie continues to fall. Yep. Which the Aussie is doing, and the pound's going sideways, so that should do all right for you. Were you talking about the hourly on this? Yeah. Well, that's just because the Aussie's getting toasted, yeah. So that's just be patient and wait for that to come back and fill you. It's only 10 pips away. You may get that at some point today. Okay, so just got this one. Let's just come in, so we'll start with that. So this is the Kiwi entry at 78.3. That's disappointing. You should have gone in on this one. I think this one here is a little, well, you're even getting into the bar there, unless you got slipped. Not sure why you got in at that price. Okay, with the Kiwi, I don't trade it much anymore, but you should have been going under this bar here, so your entry should have been at 79.10. You can see the low there is 79.15. You should have been going in at 79.10. And you've had this one strong seller bar, which is obviously put you in the money, but 78.30, I'm not sure why you got in at that price. Drawing your fib from there. Again, I'm not sure why you would do that. It's come back to test this level here, 88.40, which is what we were waiting for. It's come back to do that. There's various places you can draw your fib. That's one of them, and we can see it didn't come anywhere near a fib level. You could also look at, this is just a ring high. It's not something that I'd normally just go off, because it's not much of a phase two. It's just really one reversal bar. But if we do that, you can see it's the 61.8. Here, this one here is a bit more of a, you got 2 bars at least. This one here, you got 2 bars, so there's a few there, but you don't have to have a fib. You could also potentially say, well, let's that too is nothing. And that's not much either. So you don't have to have a fib. You can manipulate it. But yours, I think you went from that little high test bar. Well, you should have been going from that higher, that one there, which would give you the 61.8 exactly. Not sure. What he's saying here is convergence. Your RSI, I suppose you're showing divergence on the RSI there. Yep. Yeah, look, this is all good. I'm just not sure where your entry is, why you got into there. That's my only query on this. Otherwise, it seems, and your fib should be a little higher. Got some form of trend line resistance, but pretty steep trend. So yeah, otherwise that's all pretty good. get that. Maybe I will. Let's just run. That one's looking okay. Okay. And you say that you're a bit worried about today's bar. Well, you know, it's early days. It's only a couple of hours old, so I wouldn't get too frustrated with it. You know, it's 3.5 hours long. It's, you know, that means you've got another 20 odd hours to go. So I wouldn't worry about looking at them right now. So we come to email questions. There's no chart on it. It's just saying about dollar sec and Aussie CAD. Aussie CAD he's looking at, or he's in. Not sure where he got in. He may have got in underneath this bar here. But I think we'll have a. I think he's got his. Let's have a look. No. Yeah. The other thing he mentions is the dollar sec. Dollar sec, he says he's still long and looking okay. You got a high test bar off what would appear to be a bit of a resistance there. We can see that 1, 2, 3, 4 highs. Might want to move your stop up underneath that, which brings us to this question here. Dollar sec. He writes sec US, but it's dollar sec. As you can see, dollar sec. You've got your Fibonacci from there to give you 1.68 resistance. Yeah, you know, you might have to do that on the weekly. My MetaTrader won't go back that far, but you know, to get your extension levels, that's something you might have to look at, or look at the monthly and see if there's a retracement level there as well. There certainly is divergence coming across here off these 3 highs, and now it's a matter of being, you got strong resistance, RSI convergence, well, RSI divergence. Divergence across here, you've got another high about the same as these, so there's certainly divergence there. The one thing you're not seeing yet, except for this one bar of selling, is another seller bar. So this may be a trade for set up tomorrow morning for Monday's open, but there's nothing right now. It's just a matter of looking at it for tomorrow and making sure that your risk reward is okay. It's a pretty strong trend, as you can see. What's that? Oh. My weekly will work. So let's put a Fibonacci. Oh, you went from. Must have gone from that to that. So 1.618. Certainly strong resistance up here. Yeah, just be patient to see that other selling order. But that's a good setup, and your analysis is okay. Cool. Then come to this one here. I can't see what this is. If this is a right. Attached screenshot of pending order placed tonight. Long Aussie risk reward is 2 to 1 for 0.5% of the count risk. You got above the moving average. do you? Look, I love all this information. That's great. I'm not sure why your entry is at this level here. Um, and why it stops there. You know, that to me doesn't make sense. Let's bring up the Aussie Kiwi. I mean, I like the idea, and I like getting along that. Um, but I just don't understand the reasoning behind it of getting in there. You know, there's your resistance. Yeah. Quite literally, you've looked at. It would seem that you're going in above this bar, which is pretty much a doji bar, and at that point in time, you know, you're not really looking. If you're looking at it like this, go back one bar. Oh, stay still there. If you're looking at it like that, there's no reason for you to get into the trade. However, when you see the next bar, well, now you might look at it and go, well, this is a pretty aggressive bar. We expect where it's coming from. It's above the 200. You know, it's closing on the 50. I might put a bit of an order in above this high here, and you stop underneath that. Yeah. But you had your stop sort of somewhere in here, and your entry above this bar, and to me that doesn't make sense. So you then go on to say the following day or later that day, some hours later, the trade did not trigger. Okay, so it must have gone past you and you had a limit order in. I suppose what you'd maybe doing is an ATR type stop, and this was a limit order hoping to get triggered in above this bar, but quite literally I would have been waiting for this bar to finish and then looking at, at going, this is pretty cool, and then look at going above the high of that bar. Yep, and obviously you'd be in the money quite well looking at it, managing it from there. So yeah, otherwise that's okay. And finally we've got these came in on Wednesday. Dollar yen trend continuation, bullish, no levels of resistance. Yep, we know that one is good. You know, ideally you should have been looking above this bar, but there was another. There was another little ring low here that you could have also looked at, but you should have been looking at that bar there. Yeah. Euro dollar short. I explained that at the start. Yeah, I'm in that, and it's the daily's certainly looking okay. Hourly's just going nowhere, and that's to be expected at this point in time. Kiwi CAD is an interesting one. The Kiwis are pretty struggling, and the CADs are doing all right, along with the US. So we've got this cycle underneath this. You fib from that, measuring that cycle, and it's come back to the 61.8 nicely. It's off the 50 horizontal resistance, bearish price action. Cool. Go and have a look at that. Just a sec. high test bar and aggressive entry would have been going underneath that. But you then get the follow-up, sell at bar, lower high, lower low. So again, you're in there. If you traded underneath this one, you could potentially move your stop to break even, which is just above this bar here. And if you traded underneath this one on this bar here, then you don't have the reasons for a stop just yet. So that's all the emails for today. Just to let you know that I'll write it in the email anyway, but no webinars next week. We have I've got the boot camps in Sydney on Tuesday, Wednesday, and travelling sort of Monday and Thursday. So the next webinar will be the following Monday. But you guys, I'll see a lot of you in the boot camp. Just a question coming online is comment on the Euro Aussie. It has formed 2 cycles above the 50 EMA, but not yet broken the neckline. That's fine. What it has done is producing, as you mentioned, it's broken this significant high in this cycle. We then have another cycle which is also still doing higher highs. This potentially will end up as a head and shoulders. Certainly formed that now. Unfortunately, this is why I don't like trading the breaks. Got stopped out, having sort of moved my stop after this reversal bar here. I got taken out, but it's now setting up, and you can, if I was you, I would ignore that particular trend line for the time being. Momentum's coming off the right end of the scale, and momentum's coming off the right end of the scale, and you've got a inside buyer bar, and you want this to finish as a strong buyer bar. You could then be looking at that as a new phase 1. But then you're trading that as a phase 1, and that's the other thing you need to be clear about, is going, well, I'll trade this as a phase 1, so that means you get out at the end of it. If the head and shoulder pattern then appears, and this phase 1, what you could potentially envisage seeing happening is that this phase 1 gets you that break above there. So this phase 1 might end, well, let's measure it. This phase 1 could end here, and then you get a phase 2 coming down, and you up here down to there, and then you're trading the new phase, trading the break of or the retest of the neckline. Yeah. So that's all the emails that have come in from start to finish. If you've missed them, I'll put them on the video. The video will be loaded up shortly. As I mentioned, there's a bit of data out next week with the FOMC, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, the big one, and you should be aware of that. If you're in the US dollars, you should be careful of it. Lock your profits in, or get the hell out. But otherwise, guys, that's it for today. As I said, I'll see you in the boot camp on Tuesday, and in the next QnA webinar is the following Monday, which is just before Melbourne Cup, so the 3rd. Any other questions before we sign off for today? No. Okay. Well, you guys have a lovely day and a lovely weekend. And we shall see you when I'm next talking to you. Cheers.